Hello, everybody, and welcome to it is the official, the end, the sayonara, the finale of the rotation for the 2021 season.
For this
All right,
year.
for this year. We'll see you next year. No, but we had a ton of fun doing this podcast this year, all throughout the season, getting hyped for the matches, breaking it down, talking smack, acting like we know everything. It's been a great time. We've been rotating our thoughts around all year, and obviously the off season here has provided some juicy drama. Roster Mania has been really fun, but I think things are about to quiet down. We're going into the off season of Call of Duty League, and so for us to come on every week from here until the next season starts, it's going to be a lot of, man, I can't wait to watch him play. Oh, man. Wonder who's going to be good. So we are going to be taking a little hiatus, a little break between now and the beginning of our season next year. But don't fret, we will be back and better than ever next year. So what's good? So enjoy it while we're here. Guys, let's get into it some more. A lot of stuff actually has gone down in just 1 week. A lot of confirmed rosters, a lot of confirmations. I mean, let's start with ROKKR, since I ended the last episode not mentioning anything about ROKKR. Would love to hear your guys' candid thoughts on our roster obviously sticking together. We had an awesome video where the guys went skydiving. By the way, their decision. We were not like, hey, we want to re-announce you, you want to go skydiving. They were like, yo, wouldn't it be cool if we went skydiving? So anyway, it was really cool. The guys had a great time, great experience. And we obviously announced that we were retaining our entire roster from 2021. So I'd love to know you guys said genuinely, is that good or bad for ROKKR that we're sticking with the same roster going into 2021?
Yeah, I'll
or
start
2022.
this.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll start this by saying that I think it's great. I was a bit nervous throughout Roster Mania because I felt as though there was somebody on the ROKKR roster that could help out a ton of squads out there. And I felt like, as was kind of the story throughout Black Ops Cold War, so many of these squads were one dominant SMG away. So heading into next year, it just seemed like if they needed a dominant SMG, Standy could be that person. So I didn't even really put it into words. I just kind of stepped back and was watching. But it just seemed like every time a move would happen. So as soon as Envoy got dropped, you start to think, well, and this was before kind of the formal announcement. So way back at the beginning of Roster Mania, my thought was, well, who could they add that would make that Optic squad better than having Envoy there? And there were two names. It was Standy and Kleenex. Those were the two players. And that didn't happen. So, all right, good. And then the news rolled around that maybe Crim and Clay were potentially teaming up and Hydra is there. So what's the part they're missing? Another dominant SMG. And it just so happens that it seems like right now that's going to be Neptune. Whereas, again, it's another potential spot where it could have been Standy. Kind of the same thing with LA Thieves. Envoy ended up going there, but it could have been Kenny, could have been Octane, could have been Draza, and they needed another SMG, right? So it just seemed like every time one of these big rosters with a bunch of headline names needed an SMG, I was just waiting for pieces to fall. And thankfully they never did. And I'm super stoked for the ROKKR roster heading into next year. Now at the beginning of this, I thought there would be 4 that wouldn't change. And basically that was pretty close outside of what happened with Optic, because Atlanta didn't make a move, Toronto didn't make a move, Minnesota didn't make a move. The Optic roster was the other one that I thought might stay. But of course, we know everything that's going on there. But I just think heading into next year, I think we saw towards the end of the year, once Mike got a bit more comfortable with being that in-game leader, I think the addition of Standy and putting him next to Attach, it relieved some pressure from Attach of having to be that super aggro SMG. That went to Standy, and then the role with Attach seemed to make a bit more sense. And then when Mike came back into the fold and really the team trusted him to be that IGL, I think those were the 2 key pieces. And now I think going into next year, I think Minnesota is set up super well, maybe even better than some of those other top squads, just because this roster is prepared for whatever meta is thrown at them, right? If you go into next year and it's a 3 SMG meta, you have Priest on an SMG, you're feeling super happy. Like if you're, for instance, I know we've talked about it a couple times, but if you're the New York Subliners and Clay or Crim have to run an SMG, that's probably not going to work out great for you. Now, not saying they're going to be like trash cans bottom of the league, but when you got Celium with an SMG and you have Illy or Dashy with an SMG and Priesta with an SMG, I mean, those are 3 deadly flexes that might not be available to some other rosters. So I just think the moves that were made, everybody's sticking together. I think heading into next year, the roster is pretty meta proof if it's 2 ARs, 2 SMGs. And a lot of that just has to deal with how comfortable Priesta seems on those roles. So yeah, I'm excited. I think it was probably the best case scenario and should give them a leg up heading into Vanguard next year.
I mean, I have to agree. I think the decision was good. I think the roster was on a high, and they still are. The video that they did to release, jumping out of the plane and everything like that was really cool to show like chemistry, and then they had some bloopers you could watch and stuff like that. And so I think overall, the ROKKR are right up there with the other top teams in the league in terms of like intentional and consistent content, things like that. And I think that there's a lot of chemistry that builds. And yes, good job, director of content. I think there's a lot of chemistry that builds, and I honestly believe that the fan base, all that kind of stuff, like showing up, like no other team was doing that. Like having people in bars, and they'd shout it out on the CDL stream all the time. Because it was so cool and innovative, and I think that this team will continue to push the envelope forward. And just to say it, like, there's possible trades during the season, and so I think if you're making an educated guess or a risk, like this is a good one to keep this whole roster and see how they do to start out the season. Like, especially based on the chemistry that they built at the end, and they figured it out. Once you figure that, like, I know we'll end up talking about the LA Thieves and stuff a little bit more later in the show, but it's like, you hear about even that Optic team that didn't have teamwork and didn't have chemistry. And it's like, if you can find that in the CDL, you almost make yourself a top 6 team, and then it's up to you how you place, just because you have teamwork out the gate. And these guys definitely, you hear them, they talk about, like in the press conference, they talked about the same stuff. They're all on the same page on what they need to do as a team. They talk about their coaches all the time and give credit to the coaches. They respect their coaches. Brian Saint has done an awesome job with the organization over the last couple of years, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing what the ROKKR do next year.
Me freaking too, man. I honestly, when I found out that we were retaining all 4 of the players, I was mad hype. I mean, obviously, I think personally all these guys are great. Like they seem like good dudes. I'm super stoked for them to resign. I do think like there were some definite ups and downs last year, but Standy bursting on the scene, I was a tiny bit afraid of like, what if Hector comes up with his checkbook, or you never know what's going to happen. Because he's a very sought after player, and he should be. He is. There's a reason we want to keep him. And so I think the benefit to us being able to retain him, like we're the team that gave him a shot. We want to keep him. Like I think that he meshes well with the other players. The other players seem to mesh well with him. So I was super stoked for the guys to stick together, not just because like I like them, but we did finish high. We won stage 5 major on LAN in the most insane fashion of all time. And then placed top 4 at champs, which obviously we would like to win, or at least make a grand finals appearance, make it to the big game. But I still think they finished really well, and I do think it's one of those cases I think where they can keep building on what they've already accomplished, and they'll have a bit of a leg up over the other teams who now need to kind of find their rhythm together and mesh. Whereas these guys, like, they know how to communicate, they know what to do. The coaching staff here is great. So yeah, I'm stoked, and also like obviously biased director of content POV here, but they're great in content. All those guys, they got great personalities. They're not afraid of the camera. They show up on time for the most part. to their shoots, and they're pretty good about it. But yeah, they you know, they're about it. They understand the goal, the mission, and the vision here that we got. So I'm stoked to keep these guys on board. Much love, and yeah, it's next year's going to be really good. And it's a great point that you bring up about, you know, if the meta is it's 3 subs, 1 AR, 2 ARs, 2 subs. I mean, I don't know what we've seen before where it's like 3 ARs, 1 sub. I think all of those options are open for us. So I think, and not only that, but I just feel like we learn the games pretty quickly. The new Call of Duties, thanks to just the dedication of our players and our coaching staff. So stoked on that. I see someone in the chat is asking if we're going to have a substitute player for the team. So Coach Saint on the press conference. By the way, if you guys haven't watched it, so we did a press conference. Because to explain like the strategy behind it, obviously retaining our roster, there's not really like a big splash there. There's not like a, you know, a huge like, oh my God announcement. You know, like we made a cool video, but there, you know, we were like, how do we turn it into like kind of a bigger moment? And something that's worked really well in the past for us is doing live streams, Q&As. So we decided to show the video, have a press conference where the lovely press can come and ask their questions and just kind of get the intel on what went behind this decision. I feel like there's definitely more than enough for them to ask and talk about, even though the roster is staying the same, like the new game, there's a bunch of impressions to give. And then, yeah, we had fans asking questions as well. It was really cool. I think people felt heard, and it was a good time. So definitely a good takeaway there that y'all like live streams. So we'll keep doing them. But yeah, what I'm saying is after this video or podcast, of course, go check that video out. It's roster review, Q&A, and press conference on the ROKKR YouTube. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already, guys. Just so you know, when the rotation comes back next year, you know, you'll be made aware. So yeah, I'm hype. I love it. I love it. So I know we already talked about last week, kind of the 100 Thieves roster. They came out with their video. Envoy got confirmed. I really like the whole like Prince of Thieves angle. I think that's really dope. I've thought a lot about it because last week I was like, that's a top 8 squad, like maybe. Maybe I'm gonna be wrong. We'll see. I've been wrong before, but I've also been right a lot. Shout out to the prediction queen. I'm sorry, Icon. I'm gonna bring every chance I get. I bring it up. Where's my belt? Do I have to make my own? Who's making this belt?
Yeah.
Pull it out of the budget. Come on. Anyway, no. So yeah, I'm still thinking they're gonna like not function properly. Something about that team's not gonna function properly. I'm not sure why. We'll see. But do you guys still hold the same thoughts? Like they're gonna be pretty nasty. They're gonna contend.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it just this whole offseason, like as soon as a lot of these rosters started to actually be predicted and come out, it just, for me, it always came down to those top, I say top 7 because I think LAG has the potential to compete with some of the top 6. So where people actually lie when it comes down to that top 6 is a bit more up in the air for me. I think you have obviously Atlanta that's up towards the top, and you probably put Toronto up there also. But after that, to me, there's so many question marks with how people are going to complement others on their roster and how roles are going to be filled in. Like, there are some question marks. You look at that LA Thieves roster and you don't have the prototypical sub duo there. Like, I know Drazik can do it and he's done it really well, but it would be much more beneficial if you had like an Envoy and a Hydra, right? If you had like both of those 2 prototypical roles laid out there. So I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to compete anytime. I think that they probably pretty easily handle the bottom 5 squads, and I think they compete with basically everybody in the top 6. But it's going to be another one of those things where it's going to take a couple stages worth of matches, worth of group plays, major tournaments, LAN, stuff like that, before we really get an idea like, okay, is Ultra for real, or are they not going to be as dominant as they were the year before? Kind of like with Florida. Going into this year, Awakening and Skies set the world on fire after Modern Warfare. And then this game comes around and you expect a lot of the same, and they really don't make any runs anywhere. They limp into champs and they get eliminated on the first day. So I think right now, just my kind of baseline is that I'm looking at the top 7 because I think LAG can compete. And within that top 7, I think LA Thieves is going to be able to hang with anybody. I think they're going to be driven by their AR and Flex duo. I think anytime you have Kenny and Octane on the same map, on the same team, I think that's got to give nightmares to any squad because they're two of the most talented ARs in our game. So I think a lot of it will depend on what does the coaching look like moving forward for Envoy, because that was kind of the thing with Optic this year, is that there were many times where Envoy found himself out of position trying to make hero plays, and that ultimately came back to bite Optic. And it wasn't all the time, but you could definitely point out a few specific instances where that was the case. So I think AR Flex, they are solid. What's Draza going to look like at an SMG? And does Envoy play a bit more coordinated with the squad? And if they do, I think they can be nasty, compete with anybody. If they don't, if things kind of seem like they're up in the air, maybe they fall into that Florida Mutineers of the Black Ops Cold War season routine.
Well said, bro. That was a ride of just impressions and knowledge. I tend to agree. This is what the podcast would devolve into. I can't wait to see next season what they look like. Kingdom, what do you think? Are you still like Thieves to run it up, Thieves till you die?
No, I think they're gonna run it up. I think they're gonna do their thing. I really like the roster. I like the composition of the team. Envoy and Sam were gonna play together 2 years ago. Envoy, I guess, was gonna go to the Surge, but that didn't happen because he got that Hector checkbook you were talking about. And Kenny and Octane have been trying to play together for 3 years, and then Draza just stepped up and showed that he has what it takes to be a top player in the league and to hang with these guys. And Draza, in my opinion, was like a Vivid, but he had shown in the past that he had it already. I think what Vivid did this year is step up and go, I'm one of the top 48 players in the world, and I'll be playing next year again. And we already knew that about Draza. I heard Ben J. Nassim say on the flank, he said to Octane, he said, if there's any way that roster was announced and Draza got hosed over again and wasn't picked up, he's like, I was gonna riot. And I think a lot of the community was like that. Like, Draza better be on this team. Like, he deserves the spot. He's worked as hard as the other 17,000 players that played for LAT last year.
Man, I'm gonna miss this podcast every week. We still better chat. We'll come on for like an emergency episode. Maybe some crazy, something crazy will happen and we'll pop up live. You never know when the rotation's going to happen. You never know.
You never know. I think the team is good. I'm really looking forward to the things that Envoy complained about that were taking place at Optic. I think that's not going to take place at LAT. The good point that like Octane made is Cap doesn't play that. He's one of those type of coaches that is not going to let you just get away with anything. He's never was that type of player, and he's definitely not that kind of coach. He's benching people left and right. A lot of the trades they made last year wasn't Nadeshot getting on the phone like, make a trade. That was Cap, like, we're trying to win, and him and Kenny just trying to figure it out. And I do think they're going to go into this next year focused on, let's build chemistry, healthy habits, like all that stuff that the Minnesota ROKKR were talking about at the end of the year. You know what I'm saying? Like communication and teamwork. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think that's the kind of stuff that an LAT would skyrocket from. I think when Envoy says out loud, we didn't put in as much work as we could have. I'm like, you guys could have won an event if you put in more work. If that's the truth, because Optic was close a lot. They lost in such heartbreaking ways. Shout out accuracy 1v3. But like I think Optic had a lot of chances. They were a top 4 team like all year, and if they would have worked harder, if they would have done that little extra step, and the question comes, who's going to push them? And I know we may end up mentioning that roster, but with the LAT roster, they've got Cap and they've got America's favorite gamer, Nadeshot, tweeting about them all the time. Like, religiously tweeting about, because it's an emotional roller coaster for Nade when that team is not winning. And so I think they're going to do good. I think they're going to be really hard to beat because they're going to be consistent. And if we can get a consistent LA Thieves, they'd be scary. You know, they'd be hard to beat for anybody, even FaZe. But FaZe could beat them. I mean, just to make it known.
I thought the exact same thing last season, and I thought the exact same thing in the 4 first iterations of their roster. Maybe I'm just like, yep, they're cursed. I don't like. Maybe they're gonna be nasty. I look forward to it. I feel like the competition in the league is at an all-time high. I mean, you did have how many events do we have total? 5, 6, if you count playoffs and champs, and 3 of the 12 teams won those events. So didn't have as much like parity as the year before, right? Like we didn't have as many different teams showing up and showing out, but I still think like with this roster mania, some of these teams are going to be, balanced out a little more. Got to give a big shout out in the chat to Will DuPont. He said, one last ride till next season. That's right. This is the last episode until next season, unless we surprise you. I just want to say congrats, Will. Will actually was hired here at Minnesota ROKKR and Version 1. He's a content intern. He's, he edits. He's great. He had his first week last week, so big shout out to Will. Welcome to the squad, son. Let's go. Dude, I remember the Sticks. I wasn't on the Sticks. What was I? Wait, was I on the Sticks? What was the podcast that you guys had me on the first time?
That was our.
It didn't even have a name.
Call of Duty, the Kingdom IKON podcast.
The Call of Duty podcast.
We just wanted to talk COD for 3 hours a night.
Y'all really did. I think it was like a 2-hour episode when I was on. If you guys don't know, so originally like IKON and Kingdom had a podcast. They asked me to be a guest one time, and I can't remember which Call of Duty it was, which is weird because like you guys do the thing like in your life when you think of years, you're like, oh, that was when Advanced Warfare was out. Like, I don't think 2015, I think Advanced Warfare. So, I don't know. I think it was like 2016, 2017, maybe 2018. I can't remember.
It was the MW season.
Was it that recent? It was that recent. You're right. Okay. My concept of time is just completely messed up. But yeah, it's, we started from you guys just chilling out together, asking me to be on to now. I don't know. It's been a fun year, bro. It's been a fun year. I am gonna genuinely miss getting nerdy and talking COD.
Same.
Oh, look at the congrats in the chat for Will. That's so awesome. Yeah, I had to give a shout. Will's at like in all the podcast chats, everything. So let's go. Yeah, lots of good content coming up too. So I guess like what other teams? Like who else got confirmed? Toronto got confirmed. They're sticking together, staying together for the kids. I think that's a good move. I was wondering if it sounded like Kleenex's contract was up. And so he had like an opportunity to play the field a little bit, and not just get sucked back in there. But ultimately ends up sticking with the team. I think that's probably the right decision. Like I said, I mean, it's like the point I made about ROKKR. Like if you're playing well, you're doing your thing at the end of the year, it's an advantage to stick together going into the next COD. Now there are some cases where it's not. We've seen it in past Call of Duties, competitive wise, a new game comes out and this roster that was just nasty previously, like they struggle because they're not picking up the new game properly, or one of the players is having a tough time picking up the new game because COD is one of those it's a crazy esport. It's reinvented every year almost. It's similar but different every single year. So yeah, I guess I would like to know your thoughts on, Toronto. Is it kind of copy paste opinions from the ROKKR roster, or do you think they should have made a change?
I don't think they should have made a change. I think you run it back. I don't remember if it was IKON last week that said like, because it is heartbreaking to lose the way they lost. They did win one last year, but then they made 2 other grand finals. Is that right?
That's tough.
Including champs. And so like to win one and literally if you chopped stage 1 off of last year, I mean, they're still the top, second best team in the league. But if you chop stage 1 off, like these guys were kind of unstoppable, like really hard to beat. Like I can't imagine being another team playing against them because they were the first team that started like throwing the confusion, running back and forth from B bomb to A bomb and yo-yoing and just confusing teams. And like they had their own style and their own swag of play that was uniquely Toronto. And I feel like let's run that back and see it again. Like I just think, I don't know. I think sometimes it's good to stick, like why not? I mean, of course, if you're FaZe, like why in the world would you ever change that
Imagine.
roster?
Imagine they're like, Simp is too good. We want to challenge ourselves a little bit. Let's pick up MiDNiTE. Yeah, that'll go well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
The first
trust,
T
right.
in TCT is trust.
And they trust each other in Toronto. And so
Yeah.
I feel like, even though TCT is meant for the ROKKR, I feel like the difference is between the ROKKR and Toronto is the ROKKR hit their stride with their most recent iteration of their roster, because there were ups and downs, there were trades back and forth, but with that most recent iteration, and then how they capitalized on all of their unique gifts and abilities, and if they can do that next year, it's it's going to be dangerous for other teams. With Toronto, I feel like they have this they have the amount of raw skill, and then they have teamwork that is hard to match, and that's the piece that, again, if you have that and the raw skill, and which is why I question the whole Optic thing. It's hard to hear comments about them not practicing and looking at VODs ever of respawns, and that's just hard to hear.
Wait, where'd you hear that? That's new to me.
I was on the
Where was
flank.
that?
Envoy said that they didn't watch respawn VODs ever.
Envoy kind of went off.
Yeah, he
I
opened
missed
Pandora's
it. I'm
box.
missing a piece of the book. Which episode was this? Hold on.
It's 3 days ago or 4 days ago.
Oh,
He was
man,
on. Him and Octane were on the flank, and it just kind of opened up.
juicy.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was good. It was
That's
good information
wild.
into what happened at Optic, and that they were gonna always drop formal. I don't know if you heard that part. But that was the
Always
plan.
like
That
as
was
in
the
he was
plan.
always going to retire, or as in they were going to get him
They
out
were
of there.
gonna look for a replacement. Was the plan.
Bro, I missed a sick episode. It's been a busy week. I missed a sick episode. That's why. I mean, I'm not that surprised though. I mean, I think the thing with Optic and some of those players is they're so confident, they're so individually talented, they're so goddamn good. They can go off at any time and win. I truly believe that about Optic.
Yep.
But I mean, we talk about it. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so I have a theory and about Optic, because one of the things Envoy said is they were disgusting in scrims, literally untouchable. And then they would get and then they would get to an event and they just wouldn't play as well. And I wonder, I'll say, if being the most watched team has an adverse effect on how you play when people are watching. So that if you do something nasty, like you just said, they can go off at any moment. If you're dashy, that if you do something disgusting, it's going to be on Twitter when you get off the sticks. You're about to be retweeting yourself and saying something and looking. If you're Seth and you do a 1v3 clutch, it's going to be on there. If you're Envoy and you run around that corner and kill accuracy, and then you win that round 11 versus the Minnesota ROKKR, that it's Envoy, the golden boy, the prince. And so you ego chow. There's just something in your head that you feel like you're on one of your streams, And even when they stopped streaming scrims, it's you still are the most watched team in the league. Everyone is always looking at everything you do. There's never more eyeballs on Call of Duty than when Optic Gaming are playing. And so I wonder if that has an adverse effect on how they actually play. They play different
live up
because of
to
it.
themselves.
Right. Yeah, because they
There's
put
a lot of pressure.
hype. Yeah, they put hype and pressure on themselves, and it's I can't just do nothing. I have to do something that gets recognized because we're Optic. And maybe when they were up against some of the other teams, that was fine. They were just, but then when they got up against, your phases and your Torontos and they couldn't win, then it got in their head, great, now everybody's going to be calling me out on Twitter because we're losing, and stuff like that. So I wonder if that has an impact on how they play and who they are, and it's more than just they didn't watch enough VODs and stuff like that.
I'll just say a couple things, a couple takeaways from that flank episode with Envoy. One for me is that the way that Optic was operating before, they were never going to win again. And it seems ridiculous to say that, but even with Scump and Envoy and Dashy and Formal, even with all that talent, there was no way that they were going to win a major the way that things were being operated before. When you have somebody like Atlanta, who watches every VOD, that when they're done, they are just scouring through VODs and S&D rounds, and they have head coaches, assistant coaches, analysts, S&D. I mean, they are, when you talk about being prepared, there is nobody. It's not just, yes, they're disgusting players, but it's more than that why they're so good. So when you have an Optic squad with, I know Envoy and Scump having COVID, not really sure if they're going to be playing when it goes to champs or whatever, but when you limp into champs and then you get absolutely obliterated in every S&D map that you play, you're never going to win. And all of that is strictly, I mean, if you drop both of your S&D maps to basically everybody you play, that is just not being prepared. And I feel like this is probably the thing that they need, because if you look at the coaching staffs around the CDL, who are they really going to listen to? And I feel like Rambo's that guy, right? I feel like when it comes down to that merger, if there's somebody that is going to get them to play the way that they're supposed to play and put in the time that they need to put in order to compete with an Atlanta and a Toronto and a Minnesota that is super prepared with every single match that they play, that's where it's going to happen. And it just sounded like, from the points that Envoy was making in that conversation, just seemed like they didn't really put in the time. They weren't really watching VODs. There were some of those cultural things that came back to bite them, which has kind of, it's one of those things that Optic has become known for, with people showing up late. And if you're supposed to have 2 scrims a day, maybe the first one is chalked and maybe you play the second one, but you're not super prepared and ready to go for the second one. And it just seems like it's all those things over and over again that, Atlanta's not doing that stuff. Toronto's not doing that stuff, right? That those guys are locked in, ready to go. And if you're not also locked in, ready to go like they are, then now it's a point in time where you can't just show up on main stage and beat everybody. There's too much talent. You look at these top 7 rosters across the CDL, the talent is outrageous. And the only way you're going to win is if you are prepared and you know what's going to happen in S&D. You know what's going to happen in control rounds. You have a leg up in terms of how you're prepared. And it just seems like the old Optic way that they were in last year, they were never going to compete. And now this merger is probably what they needed. If anybody can do it, you would think it would be Rambo. So I don't know. It just seems like there were a bunch of takeaways from that conversation. And it just seems like this Optic squad really needed a change up like this.
Yeah, and I think with the rumor coming out of, Optic and Envy, or I guess it's Envy, but I guess it's technically also Dallas Empire is merging. So Hastro and Hector, I still can't even just fathom that in my head. It doesn't work in my brain. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, man. It bums me out. It bums me out that we're potentially losing a brand with the Dallas Empire. I mean, I guess I mentioned this last week, but they had fans at a LAN event in Arlington, which is right by Dallas, booing. They need some more fans, right? And so them, acquiring Optic, acquiring Scump, working with Hector, that's a dream, right? So I think it's good for them, but I don't know. We'll see if it's good for Optic. I think, strategy-wise, I think you guys make a great point, and I think I even said this last week, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much. But yeah, I think Rambo, you listen to Rambo. I'm not saying you don't listen to Sender, because I think Troy's a great coach. From what I can tell, my outside looking in, it seemed like he put in a lot of work. But with Rambo, he's legit. Dallas plays so fundamentally sound, and they did before he got there in Modern Warfare. They were a very good team, coached up. They didn't even have a coach, right? It wasn't just Crim6 and Clayster just running that thing
at the beginning. Yeah,
so they know how to play. Rambo knows what to do. I think he's gonna help straighten out I think with Optic it's more than just making sure you win the game, right? It's doing the content, however many times a week. It's showing up and doing the autographs. It's having that extra pressure. I know they're not winning championships, I think that's almost kind of like the allure of Optic. While I was on the team for so long, it was the 3rd place curse. It was but we could rip one, right? It was always that you're very good, but you're still kind of the underdog the whole time. So it's very exciting to follow, because when they finally do win, it's the coolest thing ever. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm excited I'm gonna just keep saying I'm excited to see what happens next year. I'm stoked. I want to hear more about that. I mean, maybe if what I'd like to maybe see, because I know we're talking about how this is the last episode of the rotation for this season, and it very well could be, but if there's some crazy stuff that happens, like if there's some like legitimate announcement about Optic and Envy merging, and or like what's gonna happen with if like presumably if
With the
Optic
NRG
Chicago's
spot.
going away, the NRG spot, Chicago, whose is that? Are they gonna be the Chicago Huntsmen? Are they gonna be the NRG MiDNiTEs? Are they? Hey, call me if you're gonna do that. By the way, I want a piece. But I want royalties or something. But no, like who's gonna take over there? What's that gonna look like? Where I mean, is like we talked about Vivid earlier. Is he on a team yet? Is Vivid like on any rumored roster? They're like we talked about. Yeah, all these big names are kind of like either announced, spoken for, or heavily rumored. But there is still a team. Like, what the hell's Florida doing? Where's Vivid gonna end up? Like, there's some still really
I think
stacked
Florida
talent
was trying
available.
to get Vivid. And the rumor, this is a weird one, but I heard that the wife of the guy that is like the GM for the Mutineers tweeted out like a meme, just pick up Vivid. So I don't know if it was just difficult.
Kingdom's out there, man.
I don't know if it's just difficult and Vivid is difficult to pick up. I mean, we've seen him be difficult to pick up in the past, like when he left.
I mean, difficult to pick up.
The whole,
how do they
like
mean?
for some reason, and so not because of him, but he's unrestricted, right? Or he is restricted. I'm sorry, isn't he restricted by Dallas? So they can determine, like they get that. They can just be like, you're gonna be a sub, like. And
that's messed up.
That's what I'm saying, like, and so
messed up.
I
That's
think,
messed up, bro.
I mean,
I understand
but you guys are
get
talking
your
about that whole
buyout,
meta
but
thing, though. Maybe people are waiting to see how that meta is going to work out because I mean, if you're New York, you're going to probably need a good sub, that can play, like maybe, I don't know, have Zuma get back on the sticks, but like they're going to need a sub that can come in that literally is a submachine gun player potentially for certain game modes. I mean, we don't even know what the third game mode is going to be. So like,
well, they're supposed to be yanking Neptune from Florida, so that would be their other sub.
No, I mean a substitute. Sorry, I mean a substitute, not a sub.
Okay.
I mean like New York's because like you said, Icon, like the meta doesn't work for a Clayster Crim combo necessarily, so they're gonna need like a substitute sub player, and so I think other teams will as well. I think that's gonna be. I think these teams this is one of the things that Optic did that was kind of awkward last year. They didn't really have a legit substitute, and they had one coach. And every top team had at least two. And so some of them had four. Like Atlanta FaZe have an entire roster worth of coaches.
They have like a roster of coaches, right?
Like we dropped one of our coaches this year. We're gonna pick up a new fourth coach. Coach roster mania.
Did you guys play any of the new Call of Duty beta last weekend?
I play on PC, so I've been waiting for this weekend.
Yeah, I might play it this week. Yeah, I was gonna say if you watched, because I was catching some of the streams here and there. Man, bro, I mean, just side note, I don't know what's wrong with me. You guys know I'm a COD kid since 2008, back in my day. That's when I started playing COD, Call of Duty 4, and I've been obsessed with it ever since until the last 2 years. I stopped streaming. I must have played myself out of Call of Duty. I've played it so much.
The sniping looks good though on Vanguard.
Yeah, I like watching it more than I like playing. Like that's how I'm just a boomer now. But yeah, I'll probably still buy it and play it, and I definitely want to play the new Warzone or whatever. But yeah, I'm far more excited to watch than to play. But anyway, kind of looking at the gameplay, hearing the impressions from the folks who played it. Brian Saint actually got a chance to play it early before the beta was officially live. I know we heard about Simp dropping 1,000 on frying Brian, frying other pros and coaches. But they got an early look at it. Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was nuts. So with Saint getting to play, I've now experienced Saint getting first impressions of the new Call of Duty for 2 years now, and this one's actually the best impression he's had. He genuinely said it's really good. Obviously, every time he gets to play a new COD, you're very excited. But for the last two, he was like, "Yeah, it's all right. It's gonna be good." But this one, he was like, "I was thoroughly impressed." So that's a good sign. Because I think I love Treyarch. I thought that Cold War was one of the best competitive Call of Duties we've had since like Black Ops 4, maybe Black Ops 2, even maybe if I'm really feeling crazy. Or no, I meant Black Ops 3. Wait, which was the one with the Redwood jetpack? Black Ops 3?
That was Black Ops 3, yeah.
Dude, Black Ops 2 was so good. Black Ops 2 and 3. The 4 was good too. Bro,
They're all good.
That's legendary. But yeah, I'm still excited to kind of see how it all works out. But the impressions that I've heard about are good. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts. You know, it's way too early when you're looking at a beta to determine the meta or how it's going to play out. But if I force you to, like I'm about to, who do you think is like nasty? Who's going to be nasty? Are there any surprises that you think are going to pop up next year because of the new game?
So I'll preface this by saying that we're kind of in the same boat here, because I very easily last weekend could have gotten my PS4 out and updated it and downloaded the beta and played it. But I actually played the New World beta, so like the new Amazon MMORPG.
Yeah.
I played that for the second time. It was the same thing that was in their alpha like 2 months ago, but I played that instead. I just like, it was the same exact thing. I just have like more of an interest in playing that at the moment. But with that said, when it comes to COD, I play on PC, so I am going to dive into it this weekend. So just wanted to preface any of this by saying I haven't actually played it myself, but from what it seems like, seems very Modern Warfare 19-esque. It seems like a super fast time to kill. I mean, there are people shooting like 3 bullets and just getting map kills. It just, it seems same. It seems like the time to kill is unbelievably fast. So what does that look like? I don't know. Kingdom mentioned that snipers looked like they could potentially be back, and I think that's much needed, because I think that's just another layer to each of these rosters that we haven't even really talked about yet. If you look at the rosters heading into next year, like whenever we've mentioned the Atlanta phase, we've never even really mentioned the fact that Simp is a disgusting sniper, and that's another layer that they do really well. Same with like Attach on Minnesota and Dashy on that Optic roster. Like we don't even really go in depth into that area of the game yet because we haven't had it for a year. So to me, it just... from the Saga cutting room.
Yeah, shout out Joey P. Joey Fries. If you guys don't know, Joey films, directs, edits, literally gives birth to Saga, our docu-series that we do here. Dude, the last episode of Saga of us winning stage 5, like disgusting. Obviously we won. It was crazy. The best of 4 or best of 9 comeback, 5 in a row. Like obviously circumstantially crazy, but just also a very well-made video. Great episode. If you guys haven't watched it, go check it out. And it looks like Joey is working on the Champs episode.
Go.
Woo! I'm excited to see it. But yeah, new COD, it's going to be sick or no? I don't know. We'll see.
So, like, I'm interested in what's happening right now because, you know, rumors are already out. I mean, this is crazy, this generation of leaks. Rumors are already out about the 2023 COD or whatever, like the next one that comes in 2022, saying that it's going to be a second version of 2019 Modern Warfare. And so, like, I think the reality is this Warzone engine, and that's why a lot of pros I think like it, is like that engine, that Modern Warfare engine, if we may have a semi-permanent engine in COD, which is crazy to think about. Like, we're going to be playing the same type of movement and style of movement on a World War II game as we are in Warzone when the new map drops in that same game. Like, I think the competition level of Call of Duty overall is going to be ridiculous. I think Warzone tourneys are going to allow pro players to have a career beyond pro playing, and they're still going to be able to place high in those tournaments. And so you see a lot of, shout out to the Minnesota ROKKR, but you see a lot of teams these days picking up those Warzone players consistently and making sure they have people on roster that play Warzone. And I'm going to keep talking about it. Mobile is coming as well. You know, mobile Warzone is being created. I don't know when it's going to drop, but it's going to be big. And
wait, for real?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so...
You mean I could be at the airport dropping off Verdansk?
I do it now in the COD Mobile VR map, but yeah, you'll be able to drop not Verdansk, it'll be whatever the new map is.
Yeah, it'll be like
it'll
be like a mobile only map. Oh snap, that's gonna be sick.
So the Blackout map is coming to mobile soon, actually, to the current COD Mobile, so it's gonna be interesting. There's so much development COD is doing, they're going to be winning on mobile, winning BR, winning in esports, because there is no esport that changes the game every year. Like, we can talk and talk and talk, but we don't know the meta. The game, like, who's going to be good, you asked? Any fast AR, I feel like, is going to fry in that game. Like, and then the turrets, like in Octane, they're going to do really well. And then with the subs, there's going to be a lot of running and gunning. And because if you stop, you'll probably get picked off by one of those turrets. And so I feel like positioning is going to be important. If snipers come back, like, good point, IKON, like, we haven't even talked about simp sniping in years. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. And so it's like he's crazy, and Dashy as well. Like, I can't wait to see. There's new guys that have come in the league. What does standy sniping look like? Like, we don't even know. There's new players that have come in. They could be ridiculous snipers that we haven't even seen yet because they didn't get to snipe in the pro league. And so I'm interested to see those changes. I think the way the game is packaged, there's no way it's going to play that way. The 10 attachments, there's so many different attachments that are going to be immediately GA'd. That what do you call it? The peek feature where you can peek and blind fire.
Bizarre,
that'll be GA'd from day one. That'll be like
upset.
Did you see the person that was acting like they were like, guess
which yep. It's gonna be selling him.
Like, it's gonna be shooting over the wall. But like, I think movement is gonna benefit a lot of these players that are good in Cold War. I watched Seth drop 91 with ease in a public lobby, and watching Scump play pubs is, gosh, that was a joy of mine back in Black Ops 2. Like, when Optic would upload his videos and it's like 130 kills by Scump. And I'm like, what the heck?
Casual, just dropping a lodestar on everybody. Just boom, boom.
It looked easy. So I'm excited for the game. I do think, just like, the accuracies of the world, the Kennys of the world, there's going to be players that, if you're fast enough of a sub and you can make quick decisions, I mean, seeing Simp on this game, it's scary looking. Like, it's going to be scary. But I want to see how the meta works out when they GA whatever they're going to GA. Then we get to see, like, what really is going to happen.
I'm hopeful, at least, that day one is a complete S show. I want to see an 8's lobby where they're doing the peaky thing over the counter, and I need it. I need it I just want pure chaos for day one, and then I want the GAs to come through and, like, balance this thing out.
Do you remember when Riley was in the dog was in, like, the first, like, back in Ghost or whatever? I don't even remember.
That was so terrible.
And they were complaining because it was in competitive matches. Oh, those were the days.
I do hope next year's the return of sniping as well. I still, like, I can't remember, why was it so not okay this year?
Smoke.
That's right. No
and
counter,
even when they nerfed them, you could barely see through them from the other side, but from the person that was throwing it, you could see kind of through it, and so it just wasn't fair. Like, it just.
How did Treyarch is usually so good? They never fumble. What was that? I'm calling Vondar. I'm gonna ask. No, but yeah, I mean, you gotta have smoke. You gotta. I mean, I know it's GA'd, but, like, and I just forgot why it was GA'd. I guess, you definitely have to be able to smoke your crosses, otherwise you're just gonna get.
And there was no flinch either, so you start to get shot, and your sniper wouldn't flinch, and you could still hit your shots super easy. It was just OP.
I bet all the pub snipers were hype. Dude, I bet League Play Search was a nightmare. That's why I didn't play it. That's why I didn't want to go on there and, make all the kids feel bad. They're getting killed in League Play by this 32-year-old lady. But and also I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Man, okay, I guess, like, let's get sentimental here. I guess we could go into some final thought for the year, and then maybe, like, what was your favorite part of the podcast this year? Like, what was your favorite, like, either moment or just thing that we did? Give me, like, a roundup of your thoughts on the season, and then we could talk about, like, favorite moments in chat. Let us know your favorite moments as well, or favorite episode.
Jeez, I guess to wrap up the season as a whole, I don't think there was as much parity as we wanted. I think heading into next year, we're going to see more than 3 teams win events. I just feel like all that top talent from the
Mm.
bottom of the league, the bottom 4 teams, is now on a top 7 roster. So just looking at the league as a whole, seems like the year started with Atlanta playing well. The year ended with Atlanta playing well. And in between, we had a couple squads that got hot in Toronto and us. So overall, the year, I think it was awesome to follow. I feel like there were storylines all over the place, as there always are when it comes to competitive Call of Duty, right? That's what this esport is kind of known for, is just the storylines all over the place. I will say from about the 3rd stage on, I was pretty much sure that I was going to have that predictions belt on my wall right there. I had a spot where I was going to hang it. It was right in view. I already had it all set up. And then I don't know what happened. I think producer
Stage
Shannon
5
messed up.
happened. No.
Yeah, she gave you credits for some upsets or whatever. So
that's not true. You guys could have, thought of the same upsets, and you didn't. And that's your fault, your problem. All right.
yeah,
I did go ham. Like I went like ROKKR had to go to stage 5, and I obviously always but there was I predicted some other pretty big upsets.
Yeah, no, there was a point.
I'm just amazing.
There was a point in time where like you got like 6 upsets in a row, and I'm like, why is this happening? Because it's just like in my brain it doesn't make sense, but it just kept happening. And before you knew it, I was down by 100 points. So I like the fact that as the season wore along, we went ahead, we tracked the predictions and all that. But ultimately, just every week getting ready to come in here and talk Call of Duty and having a space where we can interact with the chat and just kind of talk about tournaments, talk about group play, talk about roster moves, talk about all the craziness in Call of Duty. It's I don't know, it's just it's a nice night to just kind of sit back, talk Call of Duty and get our thoughts out there. So had a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to next year, and it seems like the season next year is already shaping up to be wild with the way that roster mania has gone and how the rosters have formed. So just when it seems like, can Call of Duty get any crazier? It just, Optic is going to be merged with Envy, and we're like, what? So the scene always provides storylines, and we're always here to talk about them. So it's been fun. I'm looking forward to it again moving forward.
Yeah, it's been a great year. I feel like the show has gotten better with every episode. The thumbnails have gotten better. We've added new stuff. We just, somewhere in the year, I don't even remember when it was, we started putting comments from the comments up on the screen. Like we moved over and had the sidebar with the main box, and we've done.
So what you're saying is producer Shed an MVP. I agree.
Yeah.
So, she's started from the bottom. Now we're here. It's just been. It's been great, the show is I could talk about competitive Call of Duty forever. It's just one of those things, even when I wasn't, if I look at my YouTube channel and there's these random years where I wasn't uploading any content, and then I'd put up 3 random videos about COD and then stop uploading again. When the Optic Dynasty broke up, I was like, I have to talk about this. I don't even, it doesn't even matter. This just has to be talked about.
You're compelled.
Yeah, it's in my blood, and so when this whole thing happens for Optic and Dallas, it'll probably be another video after 7 months of not uploading. But it's I just talking about competitive COD is something that I love doing, and I love that we've had this opportunity with this show. The moment you called me, I remember I hit up my boss at G Fuel at the time when I was working there, and I was like, hey, so podcast, can I do that during the week? He's like, I don't care. I was like, cool. It might interrupt with our work time a little bit. He was like, whatever. And so I think everything we've done, and favorite moments, having Standy on was actually really cool. Being able to kind of interview him. He's one of those up and coming generational talent that people want to know about. And he's gonna continue to bring eyeballs to the organization, to the ROKKR. And so, a great dude. It was freaking great head on his shoulders. The moment he got on the team, it was like, yeah, this guy's good. And then you talk to him, and it's like, wow. And then you see him live, and it's like, okay, he's 6'9". I thought he was 5'2".
Yo, he's I've met him in person for the first time. Well, so they actually did come to Minnesota to shoot that skydiving video. I was like, Listen, we're not gonna have them skydive in Texas where they're currently, staying. Like,
Right.
I want you got to see the lush green Minnesota below when they're skydiving. And so, yeah, they came through. It was super quick. It was actually they
Right.
came in on like 2 days notice. Like we planned it all very quick. But yeah, it was great to like see him and connect with him too. Yeah, I mean he's so young, he's so talented to be that young
Right.
and so good at something with such a bright future ahead of you. There's a lot, there's a lot got to be going through his mind, and he seems pretty, he's well rounded, he's determined, and that's what you love to see, that fire.
So one of my favorite aspects of our show is all of the technical difficulties and how we deal with them. Like
Yeah,
when one of us is
clutch
unavailable,
up.
or our camera doesn't work, or I was in my brother's like garage trying to call you guys. Like, I mean, there's so many different ways that we've tried to work the
Yes.
show. And then the time when I froze, but you guys didn't know I froze, I will never forget that moment. Like,
Yeah,
I was
we thought you
laughing
were just-
so hard.
I thought you were just holding mad still, dude. Dude, and we just had Mama Tatch, aka Kim Price in the chat says, or no, sorry, it was JK that said this, but shout out to Mama Tatch. JK said, can we put together a wee montage of Kingdom's changing backgrounds? Because I swear, Kingdom's always in a new place. He's either in a new room or has a new angle with a new background. He's keeping it fresh. Me and IKON just sitting here with our pretty lights and shelves. Whereas Kingdom's like, you just never know. He's gonna turn the cam on one day, and you're
I'll
not
be
sure
out in
where
the
it's gonna
forest.
be at.
You don't know. Like, I used to on my when I used to do my videos back in the day for COD, I had a picture that I would put in a different place for every video, and I'd put it upside down, sideways, and it took like 10 videos, and then people started like, "Does your picture move?" Like, and then they would just watch it all the time. So
Yeah,
I mean, I like that.
like an
It's
Easter
cool.
egg. I like it. Like
Yeah,
a
right.
Kingdom Easter egg every week. We'll have to bring
Where's
that.
Kingdom?
Yeah, I love doing the show, with you guys, and obviously all the people who are listening and here, especially if you're chatting every week. That's super awesome. It's gonna be, I think the off season is gonna go really quick. The new game is about to come out. It'll make things fly by before you know it. We'll be here talking COD every week. I think my favorite thing is just how far the production has come. I think even next year we can do some really cool stuff. I think next year, and this is on me and Shannon to kind of work on, but I want to like make sure we have a lineup of guests. We don't have to have a guest every week, but we should have more. I think those did really well, just keeping it interesting. I mean, for sure, our takes every week always fascinating, but when you can kind of mix in your standees or your other CDL folk, I think that's really cool to kind of mix it up a little bit more. So yeah, I really enjoyed so I obviously work for Minnesota ROKKR and Version 1, so I'm just ingrained in this all day, every day, which is, by the way, my favorite. Like, I have my dream job. It's incredible. I love my life. And it doesn't feel like work. And so when I have to do this podcast, I'm like, I'm thinking, oh man, like I have to do this after work, but it's still work. But I come on, it doesn't feel like work at all. We're just talking COD. I'm hanging out with the homies. It's a good time. It's almost like a little escape. Like, it's still work, but it's like a little escape from like you just, you're thinking about roster drama and Clayster yelling on main stage. Like, that's the big thing I'm thinking about for that hour or whatever. It's just, it's really fun to just sit and talk COD with you guys. I love how far it's come, production wise. We got a massive shout out to producer Shannon. She's here week in and week out.
No doubt.
She's getting everything lined up. She's making the clip. She's promoting. She's like, Shannon's the podcast. A big shout out, producer Shannon. Inez Beverly in the chat. That's her. So yeah, I guess, and also just shout out to all you guys for, interacting with us, watching, checking out the clips. Even if you can't catch the episodes live, you're checking out the clips on Twitter. That means a lot to us. We have sometimes some pretty hot takes. I don't know. I feel like do you think next year we should be like more hot takey, or do you think we're like the perfect amount of takey? Makes sense.
I think we're a blend of, because we tend to watch what other people say, and then we basically give our opinion on it, and so it's like there's what happened, there's what the community is saying happened, and then there's our take on all of it, and I think our takes are pretty good. I think we've had some pretty hot takes on the show.
We're the right amount of takey, as you put
it. We're the right amount of takey. Bro, I said, my recent ignorant take was that 100 Thieves isn't a top 8 team. I am stoked to see how wrong or right I am next year. It's going to be intense. Oh, look at yo, mama Thatch in the chest is right. ROKKR has some fantastic
last
people
one.
working for it. Yo,
No
I
doubt.
can't wait to meet you at an event. I'm so upset that I didn't get to go to Champ. All right, well, let's end this before we just keep gassing each other up, which this is great. It's great for our egos, I'm sure. But yeah, just like I said, appreciate you guys tuning in all season long for the rotation. We will be back next season. I think we'll probably start up, just before the CDL season's about to start. Maybe we, look at some power rankings. All the rosters will be official. The new game will have come out. We'll get, we'll have a ton more information to talk about at that time. So until next time, and like I said, hey, you never know. Make sure you follow the ROKKR Twitter, subscribe to this YouTube, because we might pop up. Like if something crazy happens in the off season, we just can't help ourselves. We might come back online. But literally, can't wait to do this again. Thank you, IKON. Thank you, Kingdom. That's right now. Have a good one, guys.
Peace out.